going to plus 230, 240, 250, depending on where you shop. And let me go to Matt first. Matt, do you think this team has a shot of winning the college football championship this year, or do you think some of the other teams might be a little stronger?
So Georgia's just as strong as ever, it seems like. I mean, we saw them last year, 31-0. I mean, not last year, last week, 31-0 at halftime. And then they just cruised the second half to easy 45, I believe, 3 victory. Yeah, no, this Georgia defense, they're as mean as ever. Just like last year, the last couple of years, actually, this program is now what Alabama used to be. I mean, it's hard to say they're not going to go back because of how good they are.
And they have one of the softest schedules in college football.
That's what I was about to get to. Yeah, they do have a cupcake schedule, and that's big part of it, right? I mean, you have an easy road there to the playoffs, easy road to the playoffs. Once you get in the playoffs, all you got to do is win, that one game, and right there, you're in a championship. So, yeah, no, definitely reason why they're the favorite here.
Yeah, and they have blown out the first 2 opponents. I mean, what they beat? They beat UT Martin 48-7. They beat Ball State 45-3. What I haven't been impressed with, and I think Jamie as well, is Carson Beck's numbers against these weaker schools. He's basically thrown for 3 touchdowns, 1 interception, has a QBR of 61. And Jamie, that's not going to be enough playing against the Michigans, the Texas, playing against some of the stronger schools this season, is it?
No, I really like Georgia, but I have not seen the kind of power that I was expecting that they would blow these teams out. And what's most important for us here is that they haven't been covering. And so, I want to give out my first pick of the show. And I'm actually liking, I don't like to bet against Georgia, but it's all about the price. And so when I see this line at 27.5 right now, I like South Carolina. I think that they're not a great team, but I think they're a solid team. And when Georgia matches up against a solid team, they usually don't cover. And so I like it. It could go higher. You could wait. You don't have to jump on it right now. It could go to 28. It could go 28.5. But 60% of the money is on Georgia right now, and I don't think that's going to change. So I actually am going to take the plus 27.5, 28. I'll probably wait and, get it a little higher. But that's my first pick of the day.
Yeah, I like that as well. I mean, over the past 2 seasons, they've been so dominant. So this year, the odds makers know the betting public's all over this team probably each and every week. So in my opinion, I think you're going to be betting into an inflated price on this Georgia Bulldogs team. And they've been underperforming. I mean, the number's been too high over the first 2 weeks of the season, and they haven't covered the spread. So I kind of like that pick, Jamie. I think you're on point. Bobby, do you like that move?
Yeah, I like it a little bit. I haven't looked into that game too much, but yeah, off the top.
All right, let's go to the next team that we have futures on, the Michigan Wolverines. Their odds to win the championship went from plus 900 down to plus 475. Right now, they're the second favorite on the board to win it all this season. Matt, I mean, have they impressed you over the first 2 weeks of the season? And do you think they have what it takes to get the job done?
Yeah, they looked very efficient. A 30-3 win over East Carolina and a 35-7 win over UNLV. I mean, look at J.J. McCarthy, right? He's been extremely impressive, throwing for 5 touchdowns. But the key thing is not the 5 touchdowns, but the 0 interceptions and 558 yards, average QBR of 95. Are you kidding me? So, yeah, no, this team definitely impressive, and that's why we saw a reflection in the odds changing.
Yeah, and if you look at their schedule, I mean, how do they not start the season 9-0? Then they go to Happy Valley with Penn State. And that's going to be a test for them. If they're very dominant in that game and the way Ohio State has looked in the first part of the season, I mean, I think there's no one going to stop them, Jamie. You think anyone can stop that team?
I don't know. I can't imagine them not making the top 4, the final. So that's really what you gave me that number for, to make sure that I got in on Michigan when they were 9-1. If they can make that final, we're going to make money on that. And so I can't really look any farther ahead than that. I just want to see them get into the top 4, and they're looking really good to be in the championship 4.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the 4 dominant teams, right, they all lost their quarterback from last season: Georgia, Ohio State, and Alabama. And now, Michigan brought their quarterback back, JJ, and he's having a great season. So they're definitely a team to watch. I want everyone to hold their thought. We're going to go to a break, but we're going to come back with a special guest, Dan Cilio.
Do you stream on a Roku, Fire Stick, Google TV, or Apple TV? Now you can watch 6ABC 24/7 with the 6ABC Philadelphia streaming app.
And the big story on Action News?
Search 6ABC Philadelphia and start streaming today.
Welcome back to the Sports Betting Show. I'm the Philly Godfather from the PhillyGodfather.com, and we're going to start firing shortly. We're waiting on our guest, Dan Celio, to show up. But in the meantime, let me go to Bobby. Bobby, how impressive has this Texas been? I mean, they went to Tuscaloosa. They won at 7-point dogs. I know you got big futures on them. Jamie has them as well to win the conference. You have them as well to win it all at 25-1. This is a very dangerous team.
Yeah, I mean, it's no easy task to go into Tuscaloosa, arguably the toughest place to play in college football, and win that dominantly like they just did. I mean, Quinn Ewers, there was a lot of doubts about him, but I think he answered all the calls there, throwing 3 touchdowns, 350 yards, and a 63 completion percentage. I mean, I loved Texas before the season. We gave them out for this game a month ago. And it was just Alabama didn't stand a chance in that second half when Quinn Ewers turned it on and started launching that deep ball accurately.
Man, I know you're on them as well. It's the first 2 games of the season, it seems like Texas and Florida State are the 2 teams that have been battle tested. They played some serious competition. How you feeling about that future ticket?
I'm feeling actually pretty damn good. I mean, the whole question mark to me was Quinn Ewers against the top defenses, right? And I finally saw him against Alabama, the standard, right? Standard for years. Nick Saban, all this talk for years, Nick Saban, Alabama's defense. Well, guess what? He just took them out. So watch out for this team going to the playoffs, not just the playoffs, but to win it all.
All right, with that said, we got a guest coming up next. He's a good friend of mine, Dan Celio from the National Football Show. Big Sills, what's going on, brother?
All good, man. My Canes got a nice little they got like a layup game here. I think they're playing the JV. I do love Bethune-Cookman, but hey, guess what? We'll be seeing a lot of 3 and 4s in this one here, my friend.
Yeah, and they didn't just win. They covered the spread as 4.5-point dogs. And, as sports bettors, we love that. But what I really want to ask you before we start talking about the games is you played with Jerome Brown, Michael Irvin. Jimmy Johnson was your coach down there in Miami. What was that like, man? That must have been an amazing experience as a kid. And they called you guys like one of the most hated teams because you guys were so good and everybody was jealous of you. What was that like?
Well, I got 2 national championship rings right next to Jimmy's book right there. And we really kind of were like the team that started that whole stuff. And we were very proud of the fact that, it's funny. I was just bringing this up on my show earlier that a lot of the things that people are seeing Deion Sanders do, Deion did that at Florida State with Bobby Bowden. And Jimmy allowed us to do that kind of stuff. But we just didn't have the transfer portal and we didn't have social media. It was just a different era. And you got to remember, that was the first year, 1985, that the NCAA didn't have control over the television on who could be on each and every single week. It became networks' responsibilities. It kind of changed the landscape of college football forever to what you see right now because the networks now control college football. Back then, the NCAA controlled college football through the television packages. And for us to go out and do the things we did, nobody wanted to see all that stuff that we were doing back in the day like that. It was a different time frame. I mean, my D-line was behind me was Cortez Kennedy, Russell, Maryland. Then a couple of years later, we had Sapp behind me. We had so many phenomenal players on our team, all first-round draft choices. Just so you know, Godfather, I lost 1 regular season game in 3 years at UM.
Amazing.
But we were playing teams like Auburn and Florida State and Florida. Because we were independent at the time, so we got to pick and choose who we were going to play. But we played in like an 11-span day. We started out with the second kickoff classic, I think, of all time. We beat the doorknobs off Bo Jackson's Auburn team. Then we played Michigan. Then we turned around and we played Florida. Then we turned around and we played Florida State. Those were our first 4 games.
Wow.
I mean, it was a different time, and the difference was we won those games.
Yeah, you guys had one of the best teams ever, maybe one of the greatest college football teams of all time, right there.
I would say this, that what you see with what Nick has done at Alabama, it's a really great run. But you don't see – we're still putting Hall of Famers in the Pro Football Hall of Fame every year. I don't see a ton of Bama guys going in to the Hall of Fame. I see a ton of Miami guys going in each and every single year. We still got Devin Hester, and we still got Reggie Wayne waiting. Andre Johnson still waiting. Maybe Vince Wilfork waiting. Frank Gore's going in. I mean, we just got a ton of guys still that are going to be able to get an opportunity to go into Canton.
Who was your quarterback on those teams? Was it Testaverde back then?
Testaverde and Kozar were our two. I mean, get this. At one time, when I got there my freshman year, we had Jim Kelly, Bernie Kozar, Vinny Testaverde. Those were on the roster at one time. And, I mean, it was just – and our wide receivers were Brett Perriman, Michael Irvin, Brian Blades, Eddie Brown. I mean, all first-round draft choices.
Wow.
I mean, every guy was a number one pick. I mean, Jimmy Johnson was the greatest talent of value. There's no coincidence he built the power at Miami with Howard Schnellenberger. And then when he got to the Cowboys, he implemented the same stuff when he got to the Cowboys. When the Cowboys won their first Super Bowl, they were the youngest defense and the youngest roster in the NFL when they won their first Super Bowl.
Yeah. All right, let's get down to some business here. I'm going to give you the odds, and I want your opinion whether these teams make the playoffs or not. All right, Georgia's kind of easy. They're minus 250. You think they got what it takes to make the playoffs this year?
I do. I think the roster and what Kirby Smart has done with that roster has kept retooling it. And what he has done, unlike Nick is fighting the nil. And now you're all of a sudden seeing a lot of the players that are looking for the nil and being paid. A lot of Georgia alumni are coming through for that. And you're seeing a conveyor belt of talent. Look, you don't have to be a great coach of college football. You have to be a fabulous recruiter and hire great assistant coaches. See, kids today want to be coached by Jeff Stoutland was at Alabama. Okay. I mean, there's no coincidence. Jeff Stoutland was there. Mario Cristobal was actually there. You're coached by great assistants. They got great assistant coaches there. And Georgia, to me, again, can they be knocked off? You go through the rigors of the Southeastern Conference, especially when we're talking about in the East. I think it's harder to win the SEC than it is a national title, to be candid. And for me, I would say Georgia's got to be one of the favorites.
All right, let's go to Texas. You seen them play? They took out Alabama. They're at plus 120 to make the playoffs. You think they got a shot of beating Georgia or maybe beating Michigan in the college football championship?
There's two teams that let you down from Texas: the Cowboys and the Longhorns. But they went into Tuscaloosa and they took care of business. I mean, they ran the ball at them.
And if anyone knows how tough that is, you've played down there. That's extremely difficult. And us as sports bettors, we have futures on Texas. We have futures on the Cowboys. So this has to be their year, Dan. I mean, we're cheering them in.
Yeah, but I'm sick and tired of hearing this. Well, we got 53 five-star kids. You can't beat Kansas. You have to beat those teams to be considered an elite program. That's an elite win. That's a signature win for Sark. Okay, I mean, he had to have that to really. You can't go 9-3 or 9-4 in Austin. Do you know that's the richest program along with A&M in the country? They generate $170 million a year in football alone. So 9-4 is not cutting it.
Do you think that win sets the tone for the rest of the season? Is that the kind of win that you've experienced in college football that can set the tone and have that team confident and have them go all the way?
Here's the thing you have to keep an eye on, though, with teams like the Cowboys and the Longhorns. It's not getting a win like that. It's how you conduct yourself after. Do you have a letdown? Do you play down to your competition? Or do you just keep – Steve Spurrier told me this years ago, one of the great things that he had in that program at Florida. Someone goes, why do you run up to score 77-0 versus these other teams? He goes, hey, that ain't my problem. You can't stop us. I'm trying to teach these kids to stay on the gas pedal and never get off the gas pedal, because you're going to be in a situation where you've got to be on the gas pedal. You never want this with a team where you got a team letting up 1 week, because then you start playing up and down to your competition. So to me, I'm still this on Texas. That's a great win. but they haven't had a great season.
Right.
I can't have a great win. And yet, before I call it's a great season for Texas, they got to have a great moment. There's a ton of moments in great seasons. And so let's see how they conduct themselves.
All right, Dan, we got 1 minute left on this segment. We got futures on Michigan. You think they can come out and do some damage and maybe win it all this year?
Let me ask you something about Michigan. How many national titles have they won the last 80 years? Half of one. Who in their right mind ever thought that Michigan is a national power? They weren't one under Bo. The highest he ever finished was third. I mean, Michigan is a hard place to get into. He's done a better job at recruiting, but every time they get into those power games against Southeastern Conference, they get annihilated because they don't have the proper skill set guys to go and compete against those SEC teams where at the corners and at the D&O lines, they don't have it. Now, I think he's improved the roster. From Brady Hoke, it's unbelievable.
Well, he's playing.
He is a good coach.
Yeah, he's playing against Ohio State, who I think regresses. He's playing against Penn State, who I don't think is there. But hold that thought because we're going to go on our next segment. We're going to give out a bunch of more moves. So just hold that thought, Dan.
Go to get your game on. Go for the beers. Go for the cheers. Go for the hit and the hits. Go for the stakes and the stakes. Go to get your parlay on. Go to get your party on. Go for the scene. Go for the screens. Go for the gallery. Go for the win. Go to Ocean. Visit theoceanac.com to plan your visit.
Welcome to the Sports Betting Show. I'm the Philly Godfather from phillygodfather.com with our guest, Dan Cilio. Dan, before we let you go, I got one more team I want to ask you about. Can Colorado shock the world and make the playoffs this year? You're getting 15-1 odds. Can Deion shock the world with that team? Is that quarterback good enough? You think they got a shot of maybe sneaking in?
Maybe a New Year's Day bowl game, but to get into the Final Four, not chance. Utah's the team in that conference. I mean, Kyle Whittingham, who's a dear friend of ours, has built such a great program. You got to remember something about that program, too. They've gone from like Mountain West to from the WAC. They've gone through 5 different renovations of going through different conference alignment. So they've been used to this for the last 15 years. Utah's got a sensational environment. Personally, I look at Southern Cal. When has Lincoln Riley ever developed a defense anywhere in Norman? And look at the guys that don't go to Southern Cal any longer. That used to be a place where running backs, O-linemen, and defensive linemen and defensive football players. There's no Troy Polamalu's anymore at USC. You don't see any of those kind of players at that joint. So I think USC's overrated. Now, can Deion win 9 games?
Well, the over and under right now, the over and under right now is 6.5. It opened up 3.5. They've adjusted to 3 wins. That's going to be very difficult to get to 7, in my opinion. They're playing a bunch of ranked teams down the stretch. If he does it, I mean, the bottom line is the true test is going to be against USC. They're probably going to be 17-point underdogs. No one's expecting them to win that game. You got Caleb Williams who's lighting it up. That's going to be the true test, isn't it?
Oregon and USC is going to wax them, okay, because they don't have the defensive personnel. The kid Travis Hunter, I vote on the Heisman. He's the best football player I've seen in a long time. I mean, since the kid from Michigan who won the Heisman, Charles Woodson, he's kind of like that kind of guy, but better. I mean, he's the most electric player that steps on the field. And I'll tell you what about Shedeur. Boy, I'll tell you what, if you think Caleb Williams is this good, well, Shedeur is right here. I mean, he's not that – someone went to me and they went, so think Shedeur is better than Caleb? I don't know, man. Let's see this thing play out here because he is so comfortable. He resets his feet in the pocket. Brady's coach. Brady breaks his film down every game and tells him the things that he's doing and not doing.
Well, he's currently
Brady's breaking it down.
He's currently 18-1 to win the Heisman with Tom Brady on his side. That might be a great bet. Dan, I want to thank you for coming on the Sports Betting Show. I love doing your show every Friday, 5:30 p.m. Eastern Time, the National Football Show, and we're going to have you back, Dan. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you, guys. I appreciate you listening to One Loud Italian Guy. Thank you.
You got it, man. Yeah, he's awesome. He's an encyclopedia of knowledge. He knows every college football team. He knows everything about those teams. I mean, who knew that Tom Brady was breaking down the film for Shedeur Sanders? He's only going to get better, Jamie. I mean, think about that.
Yeah, that is really interesting. You know, having a mentor like that, having his dad, all the people that are around him, he seems really focused and he works hard. And that's what Coach Prime teaches. You just work, you work harder, you do better. And these guys just, you know, have no quit in them. So he's got a shot.
Yeah, 18-1. I mean, you got, especially with his dad being the coach. I mean, who's got a better football IQ than him? He's played with the greatest coaches in the history of the NFL. He's played against them. He's arguably one of the greatest defensive players of all time. You're not going to fool him on the field. Now, you might have more talent on the field. There ain't going to be any college football coach that can confuse or trick Deion Sanders on a football field.
No.
All right, let me go to Matt real quick. Matt, Florida State, they were 18-1 to win it all. They're down to 10-1 after that big win over LSU. How do you feel about this team moving forward? Do you think they got the goods? Do you think they got the right stuff to win it all?
Well, Florida State, obviously, you know, they performed well against LSU. But honestly, I want to get to the Heisman a little bit. I want to talk a bit on that with Shedeur Sanders, right? Shedeur Sanders, you know, guys were talking about Tom Brady. Cilio was talking about him helping Shedeur Sanders. Well, the way I see it is when you have – if you want a great company, you want great people working the company, right, controlling everything. If you want a great brand, well, you want great people working on the brand. Well, you want a great player – you want the right people working around them, right? And that's what he has with his father and Deion Sanders and Tom Brady and whatnot. I think a shot at 18-1 is a good little nibble, but I do love Quinn Ewers. We saw what he did against Alabama at 9-1. Super impressive, putting up those numbers. And you look at, you know, at 9-1, the remaining schedule Texas has and opponent pass defenses, there's a good shot taking that trophy home.
Yeah, Jamie, is he making you nervous? I know you got Williams to win it all at 5-1. It's currently down to 4-1. You think he's still the front runner? You think anyone, you know, takes that position over from him? It's going to be very difficult.
I mean, until I see differently, and my money's on Williams. So it's so I have the hope and the faith, and which doesn't really mean that much. But from logic standpoint, Caleb Williams is still the front runner, but look, I bet on Texas to win their conference. I certainly want to see them do well. I want to see Ewers win pretty much every game. And
Jimmy, hold that thought. Jamie, hold that thought for a second. We got Jimmy Batista. He's about to jump in. Jimmy.
Yes, sir.
Finally.
Finally, man. What's going on?
You can make some NBA games kind of funny, but you got a tough time jumping on with technology. You there?
I'm here. How are you guys?
We were talking about Georgia earlier, man. You still think they're the front runner? I know you have them to win it all this year.
I heard a lot of guys, you guys earlier in the show were saying that. I like Georgia this week.
You're going to lay that big number?
Yeah. In college football, I think with anything's possible. I like Georgia this week. I'm hoping someone plays the dog, and maybe Jamie's holding out for 29. Maybe the public may drive it up or something. But
well, they've been betting it. They've been betting. I think like 65-70% of the action so far is on Georgia. The public money open 27. It's up to 27.5. You wouldn't want to look to take 28 or 28.5. You think they're going to dominate? You're betting into an inflated price. I mean, the odds makers already know the public's all over them each and every week. You still like them?
Yes, I do. I'll stay with the Bulldogs. I like them week 1. I like them this week, and I also like them Colorado State Rams against the Sanders boys.
You gotta wait. You're not supposed to give it out. You gotta let it go to 24.5.
Everyone's so high on Colorado and everything in Sanders, but
you let the cat out the bag.
Boys.
I gotta bet it real quick before that line starts dropping. Yeah, let me go to Bobby. Bobby, who do you like to win it all? Who do you like to win the Heisman? I know you're big on Quinn Ewers, also from Texas.
I know last week I touched up on Michael Penix Jr. He had another good outing, 3 touchdowns, 409 yards, and he's right behind Caleb Williams in QBR. I know that obviously he's not Caleb Williams. And some of the throws that Caleb's been making has been insane. But Penix has 8 touchdowns and 1 interception through only 2 games, where Caleb has 12 touchdowns, no interceptions through 3 games. I think Penix is right in the mix there at 9-1 still. I think there's still some value on him.
You think he can outpace Caleb? I mean, Washington's got a brutal stretch of games to close out the season. They're playing USC, Utah, they're playing Oregon State, Washington State. I mean, unless his team can beat – I mean, if they go in there and they beat USC and he outperforms them, well, that changes the whole Heisman market, doesn't it, Bobby?
I mean, with that whole USC defense, I think that they're pretty suspect as long as – because USC's game plan is basically just go out there and outscore everybody else. So if they, for some reason, have a tough game against that Washington defense and Washington wins that game, I think you'll see Penix's odds drop.
Oh, he's definitely going to drop. It's probably going to be him and from the kid to Texas as the favorites if Washington goes in there and beats USC. That'll shock a lot of people. Jamie, you think that's possible? Let me go in there and beat it?
It's certainly possible. Certainly. But, you know, Washington can go in there and give him a tough game, but Caleb could still put up really serious numbers.
Yeah, he's lighting it up all right. So you can't argue with him being the favorite to win the Heisman. All right, let's go to a different discussion here. Colorado, they've surprised a lot of people. Their season win total went from 3.5 to 6.5, where it currently sits. Let me go to Matt first. Matt, do you think they can win more than 6.5 games? Do you think they can surprise some people? They're 15-1 to get in the playoffs. I don't think that can happen, but if they go in there and beat USC as huge underdogs, I mean, they're in the mix, ain't they?
Wait, say that again. They're going to beat USC?
No, I said if they can go in there and beat them. Matt, your volume's off.
You hear me now?
Yeah, I hear you now. No, I said if they can go in there and win a 17. Listen, they went in there and won as 21-point underdogs against TCU. I'm not putting anything by him, Jimmy. I mean, this kid's got Tom Brady on his side at quarterback in Colorado.
I hear you.
So, yeah, when I look at the Colorado, obviously they're now 6.5, I believe. I mean, look, if they beat USC, it's a whole different story. It blows everything out of the doors. But like I said, Shedeur Sanders has the right people around them. Colorado obviously now has the right people around them as a whole team. And, I mean, look at all the key position players. They're just as fast as anyone. The athletes they have match up with the top guys and the top, prospects. So anything's possible. Now, obviously, you got to be a little wary, but anything's possible at this point.
I mean, can they win 7 games? That's what I'm looking at.
They can win 7 games, but I'm concerned about their defense.
Yeah, well, we're going to find out soon. I mean, they're going to be Colorado State, right? They might not cover, like you said. You let the cat out the bag. But so they start the season 3-0, basically. And then Arizona State, Stanford, they can beat those teams, right? So there's 6 wins. But then who do you beat? The remaining 6 games on their schedule are against USC, Utah, Oregon State, Oregon, Washington, UCLA. All these teams are ranked.
Maybe UCLA, but
UCLA?
not likely.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, they could go 7-5.
What about their Heisman candidates?
Jimmy, what's the minimum number you take Colorado State at?
I'm seeing some 24.5 now, but I'm hoping, it goes higher. So
right, but what's your minimum?
Well, if I have to grab 24.5, but I think the public, everyone's so in love with Deion and Deion.
Hold that thought, Jimmy. We got 5 seconds. We're going to go to the next segment. Make sure you guys come back.
Do you stream on a Roku, Fire Stick, Google TV, or Apple TV? Now you can watch 6ABC 24/7 with the 6ABC Philadelphia streaming app.
And the big story on Action News?
Search 6ABC Philadelphia and start streaming today.
Welcome back to the Sports Betting Show on Sirius XM, JAKIB Sports Media on Sports Grid, and we're live streaming on Twitter tonight. This is the segment you guys want to listen to. We're going to start firing. We've been out a bunch of legendary moves. Now let me go back to Jimmy. Jamie had asked you a question about Colorado State. You let the cat out the bag. What number?
I do like the dog. I like the dog a lot here in this situation. Yeah, I know I can take 24.5 now. I haven't seen anything move towards the dog yet, but we have time still. So I'm hoping I would love to grab something better than that, but we'll see what happens.
Jamie, do you like that? Do you like that move?
I understand the theory. I understand the logic. I know that the price is going to be too high for what it really should be based on all the love that, Colorado is now getting. But until I see differently, I don't feel like I'm going to put my money against Colorado. Maybe they want to make a statement, right? If they could put those numbers up against Nebraska, I'm not. To me, I'm just staying off of it.
Yeah. The funny thing is, Colorado State actually had a higher projected season win total at the beginning of the season than Colorado, and now they're 24.5-point dogs, which is insane. Matt, let me go back to Jamie. Jamie, do you have a move in college football this week that you really, really like that you want to share with everyone listening and watching out there?
I do. I've always loved Arkansas. I've been to a Razorbacks game. It is an incredible experience. It is different, kind of like Penn State going down. You go into Arkansas, you are in for a completely different type of experience, and I think that they're solid. I don't want to overvalue how good they are, but I think that in this game, they're giving 8 now. They could probably get it down to 7.5. It's actually going, it looks like it's moving in the right direction. We might wait and take it at 8, but I compare this. BYU to me is just not a very good team, and Arkansas can run all over them, and so I'm thinking that this reminds me a little bit of the biggest bet I ever made on a college football game in my life. I'll just take 20 seconds and tell this story. But when Alabama and Notre Dame were in the championship, and it was just so obvious to me and anyone who was really paying attention that Alabama should have been a 24-point favorite. It was like men playing against boys. They were just so outmatched. But Notre Dame, the money on Notre Dame, the people who follow Notre Dame, they believe that there's a certain kind of faith and a certain kind of religious belief that maybe there's something to win, right? And so BYU has a lot of that too. BYU has these rabid fans that believe that maybe something's on their side. And so I like to take advantage of those kind of line movements based on beliefs. And so BYU is getting money based on things that are not necessarily logical to me. So, by the way, Arkansas, I put the most amount of money I've ever put on a college football game. I got every dollar I could get down on that game, and they won by, I think, 26.
Yeah, it was a no-brainer, that one. I mean,
yeah, I'm not saying this Arkansas game is going to go that way, but I would give up to 8, and I'm hoping it gets down to 7. That's my favorite play of this college football week.
Let me go to Matty, one of my lead handicappers at the PhillyGodfather.com. Matt, Florida State versus Boston College. You got a side there or a total you like?
So Florida State opened as 28-point favorites. That last I checked was down to around 26. Total open 56 down to 48. We expect some weather in this game. A lot of weather, 20 to 30 mile per hour winds accompanied by rain with 42 to 45 mile per hour wind gusts.
Wow.
So, yeah, Boston College came in ranked 70th in opponent yards per play last year. They ranked 33rd so far this season. Florida State, as we all know, they have a mighty defense. We saw them in action. Boston College came in last year as one of the lower scoring teams, ranking 123rd. With the weather against this Boston College team and the tough task of now facing this Florida State defense, I mean, I'm not sure how much they're going to be able to score a lot. If they're going to be able to score a lot in this one, the question mark is how many points Florida State's going to put up. Because when we look at the first two games, the FSU team did not let up at all. They kept their foot on the gas. But, I mean, it might be a different story this week with that rain and those winds. So I lean under 48 here as a small move. I did bet. I nibbled on it. Nothing serious, some small cash. That's about it.
Jimmy, when you got bad weather like this, wind gusts 30, 40, whatever it is, hurricane-type rain, weather, the dog's always live, isn't it? Like anything can happen in these type of games.
Absolutely. Turnover. And that's the problem. I mean, that's the only thing that scares me, when it comes to a total like that. I mean, I remember there was an NFL game. It was a Monday night game, and not to get into the NFL, it was like the worst weather of all time. The total was like 37.5. It was snow, it was rain, it was everything. I think the total actually dropped to like 29.5. It was the first time I saw an NFL total go to 29.5. And long behold, the game went well over because of the turnovers.
Right.
Steve, what was it? I don't know if it was the Buffalo Bills or I can't remember.
I think the Bills were involved in that game. I kind of remember what game you're talking about. Yeah,
Bills,
but
Chiefs,
you make a great point.
Oh, no, it was the Green Bay Packers. And we made a joke. And, the line was right there. And he just ran right around the end. I remember there was a comment.
What year was that? You remember what year that was?
Oh, my God. It had to be in the late 90s. Late 90s.
You had a full head of hair back then.
And I just remember the running back running around the end. I mean, we had the under in check with like 7 minutes to go. And the running back just went around the end and walked right into the end zone. I'm like, fuck.
I personally like Boston College here. I mean, you got a team like Florida State. They've outperformed the market by 23 points in the first 2 weeks of the season on average. And you're going to be betting into an inflated price. And you got the weather. You got the winds. I mean, they're just going to – I think they're going to be happy just to get out of there.
You like it at what price?
I took 30, 29, and 28. I think even if it gets down to 27, it still offers a ton of value. I think you still cash a ticket. I think Florida State's just going to be happy to get out of there with a win. Nothing crazy. Let me go to Bobby. Bobby, in this type of weather game, do you like a side or a total? You think that under's the move, or you like the side better?
I think it gets tricky when you look at weather like that, because a lot of those, you deal with a lot of fumbles and loose football, windy passes flying everywhere. The only thing that concerns me is turnovers on their half of the field where the other team gets good field position.
Yeah. All right, let me go to Matt real quick. Matt, LSU this week, they're playing Miss State. Do you got an opinion on the side or a total here?
I do. Opened LSU -9, moved to about 9.5, 10. Some shops total open 53, now 54.5. Might be able to find some 55s, but I don't think this game's going to be close, right? I actually think I might bet the alternate spread on this one. Everybody wants to look at LSU as if they got beat by Florida State in every category and that they're finished, but that's not the case. They did lose to Florida State by double digits, but when you read between the lines, they almost matched Florida State on all metrics in the box score. So let's not quit on this team just yet. If we look at last game for Miss State was laying 9, and they went to OT with Arizona, squeaked out a win. But if you dive into the box score, I mean, they got beat in almost every category except turnovers. Miss State lost a first down battle, 23 first downs to 16, right? Arizona had about 130 more yards than Miss State. Arizona more than doubled the amount of passing yards as Miss State. They had the same amount of yards per rush. The Wildcats beat the Bulldogs in time possession by about 5 minutes in that game. The only difference was Arizona had 5 turnovers, 4 interceptions thrown by Jacob DeLaura, their QB. I mean, he had turnover problems last year. He threw 13 interceptions. But Jaden Daniels for this LSU Tigers team, it's a totally different story. Daniels was in the running for the Heisman, right? He's a Heisman-worthy, Heisman potential type of player. And he only had 3 interceptions last year. So Miss State had 4 less turnovers and barely won this game. Other teams would have destroyed that team if they won the turnover battle by that much.
Matt, what number would you take it up to?
So I take it up to, I mean, you can catch 9.5 right now. I'd go and bet that 9.5 right now, and maybe –
there's 9s and 9.5s out in the market. The bottom line is all the metrics are great, and I love the breakdown. But this LSU team is very, very upset. after losing to Florida State. You saw what they did last week as 56, 57-point favorites. They won by 62. They're going to go in here, and they're going to destroy the Bulldogs. I mean, if you want to lay the 9, 9.5, 10, if you want to bet the alternate line, I mean, I don't think it matters. This team's very upset, and the Bulldogs just ain't that good. I mean, Bobby, do you agree with this?
Yeah, I agree with it. Me and Matt were talking about it earlier. And, LSU was a title contender just a couple weeks ago. And in that first half of that football game, they were right in it. It was a 14-14 game heading into the second half. They came out lackluster. I still think that LSU is very underrated in this spot.
Yeah, I agree. All right, let me go to Jimmy real quick.
You like LSU?
You asking me?
No, Jimmy.
I agree with LSU, yes.
Okay.
I think they win by 28.
Unanimous.
Late 27.
Late 27 plus 600. I'm in. Let's go.
600. You might get 10-1 on
I
that.
think you get better than that, yeah.
Let me go to Jimmy real quick. Jimmy,
Yes, sir.
Penn State, you love Franklin. You did you dirty this week. They're playing Illinois, 15-point favorites. Do you think they go in there and they cover the spread on the road? I mean,
I'd like to. I'm hoping all the Gabons lay and all them guys lay it. And, the public can do wonders. I remember this guy, Billy Walters, used to just kick a game, invest a few $100,000, and next thing you know, the game's 17. And, that's why I'm hoping someone along that caliber comes in and gives this game a kick. I like Illinois at home. I do.
Matt, do you like anyone in this game?
Wait, Jimmy,
So-
tell me the price.
Well, right now, there's 15s out there, but I'm hoping by Saturday morning that, the public drives it up and we can take a better number. So right now, listen, would I love to take 17 on the game? Yes, I would love to, but we have to wait and see. So that's one we have to monitor until the game kicks, and we'll be watching it.
You don't think Franklin's going to be thinking about the boosters again this week?
I don't know. I got a few text messages from that. How could you say that about him? He's an honorable guy.
I don't know about all that. Matt, you got a side or a total here?
What's
So
that?
Penn State started off the year covering both the games they played. They covered as a 21-point favorite against West Virginia. Then they covered as a 40-plus point favorite against Delaware. Meanwhile, Illinois started off the season
before Delaware. Come on, that's not even fair.
Meanwhile, Illinois has started the season
the yellow
off 2
bars.
against the spread.
It's like playing a CYO team. That wasn't fair.
And Matt, what's your pick?
I didn't touch it. I just wouldn't
not
take the
touch it,
dog
okay.
unless, I wouldn't take this, even think about touching the dog until this game went to 17.
Jamie, what's your favorite move of the week in college football? Do you have something that you really, 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 really like?
Yeah, it was Arkansas. I'm certainly on LSU with you guys. I'm curious what you all think about Duke. It opened at 52.5. I took some of it at the under on 52.5. It went all the way down to 46.5. It's now maybe it's at 47, 48. It's just there's some kind of market manipulation going on, as you've taught me to look for. And so, I'm just not sure what to think about this game now.
Yeah, I haven't fired on. I don't have an opinion on it. Does anyone else have an opinion on the side or a total here?
I do not.
I don't on that game, but I do on another one if you want me to go right into it.
Keep firing, man. Keep firing.
Go.
Tennessee, Florida game last year, these teams versed. It was a shootout, but I don't think that happens this year. Florida lost Anthony Richardson, right? Huge loss. Offense, we saw clearly is not what it was. We saw the difference when they versed Utah, right? With Anthony Richardson, they put up 29 points last year. This year, they could only put up 11. Their defense, in my opinion, they have a better defensive coordinator in Armstrong now, but they're nowhere. The team itself is not anywhere close to where it was. 4 transfers on the O-line, 1 returning starter on the O-line from last year. Tennessee defense, you look at them, they forced 22 turnovers last year. They have a good defensive front. But, even Tennessee lost some key pieces on offense from last year. They lost 4 offensive players, all at key positions, QB, offensive tackle.
So we're almost done, Matt. Just tell me the pick.
Under 59.
All right, we got about 2 seconds left. Stay tuned to the next segment. We'll be right back.
Do you stream on a Roku, Fire Stick, Google TV, or Apple TV? Now you can watch 6ABC 24/7 with the 6ABC Philadelphia streaming app.
And the big story on Action News.
Search 6ABC Philadelphia and start streaming today.
Welcome back to the Sports Betting Show on Sirius XM, JAKIB Sports, Sports Grid, live streaming on Twitter. I want to make sure you guys follow the whole lineup on social media. You got Real Jamie Gold on Twitter. You got Matt Malteps from the College Kids. You got Bobby from the College Kids. You got Jimmy the Sheep Batista at Barry the Right Number. Before we close it out, we're going to do the golden recap here with Jamie Gold. Jamie, if you want to recap everything that we gave out today.
Yes, this was a great show. So the golden recap for today, we'll start with South Carolina is playing Georgia. Plus 27.5 is the way I'm going, or more. Jimmy actually likes Georgia. So
yes,
so take it for what it's worth.
We got opposition.
We have a new future in Ewers at Texas for a Heisman from the College Kids at 9-1. If you watch our old shows, you'll see our other futures that we were referring to. Jimmy likes Colorado State, and you could take it up to 24.5 versus Colorado. The price is probably going to go higher, so you might want to wait and watch as the public's going to probably move that. I like Arkansas -8. You might get it to 7. You might want to take a little, beat and wait on that. But I would take it even at -8 versus BYU. Florida State and BC. Matt likes the under at 48, just as a small lean. Philly Godfather likes BC plus 30. He'd take it even at down all the way down to 27. We all like LSU, but Matt, gave us the rundown. The College Kids at -9. We'd even give 9.5. We unanimously love that game. Illinois at home plus 15. It might even get up to 17 versus Penn State. We have Duke at under 52.5 that I was talking about, but the line has already gone down to 48. It went down to 46 at one point. We're not going to make that an official pick. The line's being manipulated. But Matt gave us the last pick at under 59 with Tennessee.
I actually have one more to add to that. We're going over 49 in the Minnesota-North Carolina game.
Say it again.
Over 49 in the Minnesota-North Carolina game.
Keep firing, guys.
Give me Alabama laying the 32.
I like Alabama too. They're going to be upset this week. They're going to be. I feel sorry for South Florida, Bobby. That's a good one. I want to thank everyone for listening, for watching. I want to thank JAKIB Sports for putting it all together. This week was a little different because we weren't live in the studio, so there's a little delay on the show. But hope you guys loved it, and stay tuned for our NFL segment coming up next.
Go to get your game on. Go for the beers. Go for the cheers. Go for the hit and the hits. Go for the stakes and the stakes. Go to get your parlay on. Go to get your party on. Go for the scene. Go for the screens. Go for the gallery. Go for the win. Go to Ocean. Visit the Ocean